Camera number 205 of 365 is this Olympus AZ300 Superzoom, also known as the Infinity Superzoom 300. Point and shoot, but has a number of features in its camcorder style body, and it takes two batteries that are housed in the battery compartment on the side here. Let's just undo that. And you'll see that it's the 1, 2, 3 batteries, CR1, 2, 3. And then we can put the battery compartment back on. Oops, I put it the right way. There we go. Okay, so with batteries in, we now have a working camera. On the front here we can see all the focus assist and the metering, and then also the flash. There is a little bracket here which is broken, which would house a strap so that you could hold the camera like that, and then the strap would come across here, but mine's missing. And then on the front, the top rather, we have the control panel where all the functions are controlled or seen and altered, our on-off button, and our tele or wide-angle zoom. The lens that comes with the camera is a 38 to 105 millimeter, 4.5 to f6. Yep, it's f6. It also includes spot metering with this button here. Let's just turn the camera on and we can see that it's telling me that there is a need to put a film in the camera. We do that by sliding the slidey thing, and then that allows us to just place our film in. It's DX coded, and there isn't any way to override that apart from using some exposure compensation. It's quite noisy as it winds on to the first frame. So how do we control the camera? Well, we have the zoom. Unfortunately, for some reason this is very, very stiff. I don't quite know why. So that's the profile of the camera at 105. And then we can just go down in various increments. We can actually go in between the increments that are put on the lens here. So that's useful. We aren't just confined to 35, 38, 50, 70 and 105. We can go in between that. Let's just bring it down and then zoom it back out again. So how do we control all the other functions? Because all we've got here is just a shutter button. Well, it's behind the control panel here. We lift the control panel, you can see various functions. So if we start on the right hand side, the blue button controls the flash, and you can cycle through by pressing the buttons: fill in flash, full automatic flash, flash off, and that's pretty much it. And then the next button is labelled subject. So there's a couple of creative modes. Macro mode, and you'll notice the lens goes out to 105, and it actually reveals this little, I don't know if you can see that, green area there that shows that we're in macro mode. Can't get hugely close, probably about 3 feet is the closest you can get, but with 105mm you do get closer than if you didn't. Going back to the subject button, we then can cycle through portrait mode, and then so that portrait mode is typically for head and shoulders. Then there is another mode for portraits, but the whole person. And then if we press it once more, good. So everything in focus, and that's it really. I think that's it. Yep. And normal mode. There we go. Normal, whatever normal is. So the camera makes all the decisions regarding shutter and aperture. Compensation, we can go up to looks like plus 1.5. And I found that very useful because the film I used, I wasn't sure of its how long it had been around, so I dialed in about 1.5 actually, the top range of extra exposure, and that seemed to have been very useful. So while we can't override DX coding, we can use the exposure compensation if we find we have a film out of date or we want to push or pull the film. And then the final mode is drive mode. So we have continuous, we have self-timer, we have double exposure, which is a nice feature, and then single mode. Now there is also, in single mode, if we press the spot button and subject, I believe, I'm reading this from the manual. No, it's not. Let's do that again. Yes, it is. So if we press spot and subject, there we go. We now enter single or servo autofocus. Now I'm reading straight from the manual here because I didn't fully understand it, to be perfectly honest with you. It says when the servo AF function is used, you can keep on focusing even while changing the composition. This prevents any time lag in focusing, making it very convenient when shooting a moving subject. You can easily perform fixed point photography, shooting a moving subject at any predetermined point by locking the focus at a particular point, then releasing the shutter when the subject reaches the point. So, if you made sense of that, it's a nice feature to have included. And we just turn it off by pressing those same buttons again. We have a factory reset button if we get confused. And then on the base, there is a little hole just there to rewind our film back into our canister. Should we need to do so halfway, or the camera will automatically rewind the film back into the canister when it's finished anyway. So that's pretty much all it as far as camera 205 goes, Olympus AZ300 Superzoom. And yeah, so that's it, camera 205 or 365.